Welcome to the Grappling Grappling Rewind Podcast.
Welcome to this week on the Grappling Rewind Podcast. So this week's show, we're going to recap BJJ Bet's inaugural event. We're going to preview Fight to Win 151, and we're going to preview Third Coast Grappling Kumite 6. As always in the show, I'm your host, Mange, and the co-host,
Emil.
How you doing, Emil?
Doing awesome, man. How you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. It was a fun weekend of BJJ Bet. It's always cool to see a promotion like put on a big first show like this. Some technical issues we'll talk about, but overall, I had a ton of fun watching it. Before we get into that, I got a little bit of news.
Yeah, let's get into it.
Not a ton of news this week. Mo Jassim, the event promoter for ADCC 2021, did an Instagram Q&A this week. Talked a little bit about kind of like how to game the rules for ADCC, like as a top player versus a bottom player, and talked about some various strategies that people should be implementing to like win in the ADCC rule set. So I thought that was really interesting. There's also a possibility that they may push the dates for ADCC, given that they're already having to move trials around because the world is still in a global pandemic. So that was some news this week. Also addressed some stuff regarding the women's weight classes. We may or may not, we probably won't see an additional women's weight class added this year, just given the logistics behind running the event in the first place in all of this.
Which is too bad, because that was, I think, the biggest change that I think I'd hope to see them implement. One thing that they were toying around with was deepening the women's divisions, but I think the thing that makes the most sense is adding another smaller division.
Yeah, adding something basically, or adding an intermediate division, because they got, right now for the women's division at ADCC, you have 8 women under 60 kilograms and over 60 kilograms. And basically,
that's a huge disparity.
Women like Gabby, who walk around at 240 plus or so, are in weight class with women who are about 160, maybe. So there's just this huge difference in weight.
60 kilograms is only like 122 pounds, I think, or 124 pounds. So
yeah, I'm wrong about that then.
It's like, that's a,
it's a very large jump.
It's a factor of 2 potentially.
And as the women's divisions have become deeper and deeper in recent years, that was one of the big things that Mo was talking about doing, but it seems like logistically it's going to be less likely to happen just with how crazy the world has gotten.
Right.
That kind of sucks.
I mean, you just put it best right before we started. ADCC would be less than 12 months away right now. That's
crazy. A little more. It'd be 12 months and like 2 weeks or 3 weeks.
Oh, so September.
So end of September.
Yeah. So
but
it would be 12 months. What does the world look like in 12 months, right? We don't know.
No.
I think even if we start to see vaccine rollouts, like there's a very good chance that we won't have,
there's
everyone set up.
Yeah,
exactly.
There's a very complex scenario that I would not want to be a major international worldwide event promoter trying to run trials and get everything organized on top of like adding additional stuff and rules and divisions.
Trials would be under normal circumstances starting in a month.
Next month, baby.
Those would be 300 to 400 person tournaments in some cases.
West Coast is easily like, I'm guessing West Coast.
I think I remember
500 last year.
No, I think it was around. It was a high 3s or like low 400s.
I think it was bigger than that. I remember it was like 380. I think before that. I think this last year it was like 500.
Regardless, like a huge tournament, huge tournament. So yeah, it makes sense that the overall tournament is going to be impacted by this.
Polaris has also announced, I got nothing else on that. Polaris has also announced Polaris squads for their upcoming event. They've announced Team Europe, they have announced Team UK and Ireland, and they've also announced Fionn Davies versus
Magdalena Loska.
Thank you. God, I'm happy you're hearing me with the names. So that'll be a super fun fight. I'm less familiar with Loska, but we're huge fans of seeing Fionn on any card, but Polaris cards especially, because highlighting UK talent and female UK talent is always exciting.
This makes sense because I saw Fionn on Instagram a few weeks ago, kind of like asking female competitors in Europe if anyone wanted to step up.
Does anyone want to fight me?
Yeah, exactly.
I watch Fionn fight. Anyone, absolutely love watching her. She fought Tatiana Porfiro in Grapple Fest. What is that? 2 months ago, and looked good, and that was like a really, really a relatively closer match than I thought it was going to be. So that was exciting. Love watching Fionn fight. I don't have a ton of other news. There's some cool event announcements. Third Coast Grappling has announced their full bracket. We'll preview that later in the show. And I can't get my cursor here. And Who's Number One has announced a super stacked card.
Just ridiculous.
We've talked about it a couple weeks in a row, but we have even more names this week. From the top of the list, we have Gordon Ryan versus Mateus Diniz, a 30-minute sub-only match. Am amped for that. That's
Craig Jones versus Roberto Jimenez.
15-minute sub-only match. I'm amped for that. Dude, I can't. This is October 2nd. I can't wait to preview. We have like, 3 weeks to get to preview this?
Yeah. This is a stacked card. Gabby Garcia versus Elizabeth Clay.
This was cool to see play out because they basically put on Instagram like, hey, who do you want to see Elizabeth Clay fight? And it was like, there was like 3 names, but Gabby Garcia was far and away.
I mean, that's the Gabby is
above
the gold
60
standard.
kilograms. Yeah. That's who you want to fight. Elizabeth Clay is an above 60 kilogram fighter and looking to take that ADC. She's done trials. She's been in there.
Yeah.
Like, I want to see her fight Gabby.
She was the youngest person to win trials, I think. Someone just made a statement that was a female competitor was the youngest.
Was it
person.
Amanda Leve or was
maybe. I can't remember.
Elizabeth Clay.
I can't remember which one it was.
Okay. Both are above 60 kilogram female competitors in the trials. I just don't remember
which one is the youngest.
I forget what happened to Clay last year at West Coast trials. I forget why. Like, how she got knocked out or she was injured. I forget. I actually gotta go back and figure that out because I think she had a slot 2 years prior to that as well.
Okay, then she wouldn't be the youngest, I think.
Yeah.
I think last year was the youngest, or last trials was the youngest.
So that's a super compelling matchup. That's, the matchup we talked about as Elizabeth Clay's been heel hooking people on who's number one in Fight to Win. Like, we want to see her versus either Porfirio or versus Garcia, and so we're going to see the Garcia matchup. That's
outstanding.
Awesome.
Next up, this is an exciting match.
This is a crazy matchup. This matchup shouldn't be happening.
Gilbert Durinho Burns versus Dante Leon. Durinho being the number 1 welterweight in the UFC right now, going for a title fight.
Versus Kamaru Usman.
Yeah.
And he's, you know what? He's like, nah, I'm going to fight one of the best dudes at, what is Dante? 77, 88. Like, I'm going to fight one of the best dudes in the world at the weight class while I'm preparing for my UFC title.
I think Dante fought at 77, but yeah.
He did, but he frequently goes to, we interviewed him at Kasai in Dallas, and he's like, I'll take matches at 88, 85. He goes, I'm pretty much looking to fight anyone. I'm like, good for you, Dante. And so
Dante's the man.
Dude, Durinho has been a little less successful recently because he's been so focused on, that's not in jiu-jitsu recently because he's been so focused on MMA. He hasn't looked bad, though. We saw him versus Polaris versus Langacker that looked that was in the gi as well.
Right.
Where Langacker just looked really, really good, and Durinho was kind of a little step behind.
Almost positive this is going to be a no-gi match, right?
Oh, definitely.
Because Polaris usually only puts on 1 gi match.
On the main card, usually 1 or 2 sometimes.
So this is a no-gi, which would make sense for both of these guys.
Yeah.
I think, that definitely equalizes things for Durinho. And Durinho is a savage grappler for sure.
Dude, world champion. Former world champion.
Yep.
In the gi. Very, very good grappler. It's just super weird to see a guy, we very rarely see guys that are at the top level competing. We saw Stipe compete at a Fight to Win a while back. We've seen a couple other guys do it. It's just
but
rare.
almost like charity match. This is a
legit who's number 1 matchup.
This is a professional jiu-jitsu event against a incredibly successful, dangerous opponent.
Yeah.
I'm loving this. I love how much this legitimizes jiu-jitsu as a sport where it's
you're your UFC title challenger is coming back into jiu-jitsu to go I'm about this. I still do this. Right. And he's still going to look fucking good.
We got Lovato back too,
Lovato's back for different reasons, but I'm not upset about it. Hodolfo, I think, competed 2 years ago. He did black belt CBD.
Yeah, less than 2 years ago.
I'm excited for that matchup. I can't wait to talk about that in depth.
Is going to be nuts too. Paulo Miao versus Gio Martinez.
Have we seen Gio since ADCC 2019?
I can't think of it. The only times in recent memory that I can think of Gio matches that I've seen are ADCC and Kasai.
He's on the Kasai versus Nikki, right? Nikki
I was just thinking Quintet.
Yeah, right. He was on the Quintet versus he guillotined Hassan Rita.
Yeah.
And it was crazy. The size difference there.
If anything, we've seen Richie more frequently.
We've seen Richie a ton. We've seen Richie on almost every sub card. We've seen him on. What else have we seen Richie on? We see Richie not infrequently, but Gio sort of seems to have kind of taken a break for a while.
I think it's just picking and choosing which things he wants to get involved with. So
good to see Gio again. This is a rematch from ADCC. these guys fight in ADCC before or fight at Kasai, maybe?
I think they've seen each other before.
Or maybe a Rise event, actually. I forget, but they've met. When we preview this matchup, we will go into more depth about it.
Next up, we have Luisa Montero versus Nathalie Ribeiro.
This is a fun one. I think another rematch should be, for the women's, I forget what division both these ladies are at. But this will probably be a number 1 slot or like determining a number 2 slot in the rankings based on this match. Really good matchup.
Nikki Ryan versus Tony Ramos.
Tony Ramos is a wrestler. We talked about this a little bit last week. It's still a little bit of an odd. It's a wrestler versus jiu-jitsu matchup. Flo is pushing those really hard.
We have yet to see one that I think really was compelling. They haven't figured that format out. I love wrestling. I love jiu-jitsu. They're different sports.
Yeah, they're different sports. It's kind of like...
And, it's like I don't see where the two rule sets meet up yet in a compelling way.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's impossible, but we just have yet to see it.
The other thing is I don't understand enough. I openly don't understand. We've had Rob on the show. Rob Sullivan on the show because I don't understand wrestling well enough to be able to speak about it with any level of intelligence.
Right.
So it's like I don't understand enough about who Tony Ramos is. I know he's a very accomplished wrestler. I just don't understand like freestyle, folk style, like internet. Like I don't understand exactly like what the rule sets lend themselves to that would potentially create an even matchup between both these grapplers.
Right.
But should be a fun match because we don't see Nikki Ryan a ton and we don't see Tony Ramos ever. So.
Lastly, we have William Tackett versus Jason Rao.
Battle of the leg lockers.
Yeah.
But Tackett has a lot more kind of pieces and parts to it. This is compelling. Rao's a big dude as well. I think Tackett's moved up in weight class. I am very interested to see how this plays out. We know Rao's going to go for the knee bars and the heel hooks, and we know William's going to do the same or go for the back. So I'm excited to kind of look at some tape on both these guys and break this down in more detail. But that's all I got for news. You got anything else for news?
No.
All right, let's move into the recap section. BJJ Bet. Their inaugural event took place in a crazy castle in the jungle. The venue was wild.
Yeah, it was nuts. It definitely looked like Dracula's castle putting on a fucking grappling event. It was a stacked card. Overall, lots of fun. Maine, you watched it live.
I did watch it live.
It sounded like there was...
I need you to filler here because I can't find the results page that I had pulled up.
So, Maine, I will convey what Maine was kind of texting us, which was that, to put it lightly, there was a number of streaming issues.
Why was it? Like, I don't want to bullshit too hard about that. The stream, there was a little bit of buffering versus the Wagner and Sanji match. But other than that, I didn't have a ton of issues in the stream. Like
really?
A bunch of other people had a bunch of other issues.
Yeah,
but
someone on Reddit was talking about like, hey, should I ask for a refund here because they missed like 2 hours of the event?
Right. I logged on before and I just kept refreshing. Eventually, I got a good stream and I didn't have any issues basically for the entirety of the evening with the stream. So I know a lot of other people did. I just didn't though.
There's something that I want to talk about here, which is I think that the matchups were wonderful. The rule set was fine. Everything about how this was set up was good for a good event. There's a huge problem with this, and that is that an organization that is going to be handling sports betting should not be a promoter. That's a huge conflict of interest. Like, that is, in any sport, you have to worry about betting influencing outcomes.
Yeah.
Not just referees, but like people throwing matches and stuff. Like boxing has that problem.
Yeah.
And
they've really cracked down in the 21st century on that.
Right. But having it all under the same roof, that's a big conflict of interest. The checks that are being cut are being written by the people who are setting the odds. That's,
a little odd.
That's not a little odd. That's a huge conflict of interest. So I had to say that because, that's a whole thing. That being said, they did put together a really good card.
It was fun as shit.
And it was super
I enjoyed
entertaining.
the hell out of watching it live. It ran a little bit longer than I anticipated. I mean, for a 13-fight card, I think it ran about 5.5 hours. They started about an hour late, but you can kind of expect
There's also
that
like a
with the
15-minute
Brazilian
break.
card.
there was like a 15-minute break that someone said like they took in the main card.
There was a stream issue that happened in the main card, and I had to refresh. So that I think I was scrambling to get the stream back up during that time.
Got it.
But overall, like the stream worked for the majority of the time. Once I got it back up running both times, it was super smooth. The audio kind of was not balanced great, but for an inaugural event,
and
I've paid for far worse pay-per-views doing this show. For an inaugural event, it ran pretty good with the talent that they had. I was pretty happy with it.
As of right now, Monday the 7th recording, there are a few of the matches on YouTube. So I don't know how long those will be up, but you can check them out there.
I bought the pay-per-view, and if you bought the pay-per-view, it's supposed to be up. Right now they're not up, and so we were able to find them for taking notes because we couldn't go back and take notes.
Yep.
So now we have some notes, which is great.
Get into it. The main event. Roberto Cyborg Abreu defeating Kainan Duarte via inside heel hook. Holy fucking shit.
I would have never picked this as an outcome. Like, it happened.
I'm straight up wrong. Like, I thought Kainan was going to take this via, like, sort of like a sweep or...
I think you said an ad. I think you said ads, thought he was going to take him via ad.
But they clearly were not doing ads here.
Right. I honestly, I'm a little annoyed. I didn't fully understand the scoring
or the OT
using, and there was like an overtime. So I'm gonna fully kind of be full disclosure here. If we get some stuff wrong, it's because I didn't fully understand exactly what scoring they were using.
Right.
They looked like they were using kind of modified IBJJF rules.
Right.
But I didn't quite understand exactly the scoring system.
But this match started how I anticipated, which was they were on the feet. Kainan clearly looked uncomfortable, actually tried to pull at one point, and he didn't have any contact with Cyborg.
They called that super slow, which was weird.
Cyborg was like looking at the ref.
Like, he didn't have contact. So if you don't know, in IBJJF, in order to pull guard, you have to have contact. So you basically, people interlace their hands and sit. One guy sits. In a no-gi, that's typically how it's done. And Kainan, in certain organizations, you don't have to have that. Like Fight to Win, you have to have contact. Kainan doesn't make contact, sits, and Cyborg like kind of looks like, are we gonna call this? Are we not gonna call this? And then realizes they're not gonna call it and goes, okay, and goes in and engages, and then
they stand him up.
The referee goes, oh, you can't do that. And I was like, wait. Why are you in the guard now? I'm very confused about what's happening.
Yep. So at this point, Kainan is like, he clearly has to stand with him for a little bit and make it legit. And to his credit, Kainan does get a nice little single leg into a foot sweep, but Cyborg pops right back up. Then Kainan pulls, and the match goes, at this point, exactly how I thought, which was Kainan was in guard because who the fuck wants to stand with Cyborg?
Nobody.
And
Mickey Rodriguez. That's about it.
That's it.
Maybe Orlando Sanchez.
Maybe.
Maybe Gaval. Like those guys, that's about it.
Kainan's in guard, and Cyborg is pressuring into him. And this goes on for a long time. And finally...
I thought this was going to be the whole match.
Yeah, me too.
This is what I think the match is going to look like.
This is exactly... I was like, okay, this is about...
This is the dynamic I thought about. I was like, we're probably going to see something late from Kainan where like he goes for the sweep. He may come up and get the ad or get the two. They're not doing ads, so he's going to have to come up to get the two. That's going to be really hard on Cyborg. We saw it go to overtime. Like, so this is the scenario I was playing out in my head.
I was watching. I was like, yep, okay, this is about right. And then this is where things go completely... in a great way off the rails. Kainan goes for single leg X, and he gets an outside Ashigarami. And Cyborg breaks the triangle and starts attacking Kainan's foot and moves his foot across.
His outside foot. It doesn't have knee control on Kainan's leg.
Cyborg gets it on the inside to get an inside Ashigarami.
But he doesn't ever even snake it all the way in. Like, Kainan taps while Cyborg is making that transition with his leg.
No, I mean, his leg is, connected across, but basically...
Yeah, but it's not under Kainan's...
Yeah, it doesn't need to be.
It doesn't ever get under.
Doesn't need to be under.
Yeah.
And all that Cyborg needs to do is be able to pinch his knees together to generate that force, and Cyborg gets a very quick tap.
In awe of this.
This is so amazing.
Finish.
So, first off, strategically speaking, Cyborg does the brilliant thing, which is if someone's outside heel hooking you and you want to get into a shootout, You get to an inside heel hook. The inside heel hook finishes a lot
not
faster.
Even outside heel hook. He's straight ankling him.
No. It was an outside heel hook.
Okay.
But what happened was, Cyborg. So Kainan starts getting the outside Ashigarami, and what Kainan is doing is he's holding on to the foot to make sure that Cyborg doesn't get it back into 50-50.
Right.
Okay. So Kainan's obsessed with that foot, but he's not paying attention to Cyborg's foot and preventing Cyborg from getting his own inside Ashigarami.
Right. So it's funny, you saw this like somewhat differently than I saw. I watched this the first time, and it seemed super slow for Kainan's reaction. On the rewatch here, like, Kainan is from the outside single leg X, knocks Cyborg over. He has the single ankle grip to stop Cyborg from either teching up or to, like, force Cyborg to not go to 50-50 like you said. And Cyborg gets knocked down and just goes, you know what? I'm going to go for this heel hook and just, like, see if I can get it. And just goes and realizes that Kainan still has his own foot, starts hipping through on it, and then snaking his other leg in to get the lock and the pressure. That's what I saw in watching this. And I think it's really cool that you saw an entirely different thing.
I mean, what I saw was Kainan going for an outside heel hook. And the reason why I know it's an outside heel hook and not a straight ankle lock is Kainan tried to triangle his legs together. And when you're going for a straight ankle, you don't go for a triangle. You put your feet on the hip to be able to hip out, to push off. So, but I think he was holding on to it because you have to, if you're not careful with it, the opponent can pull it out from under your armpit and then put you in a 50-50, and then you're in a 50-50 battle. It was crazy. Yeah,
like,
it was nuts.
I did not have 39-year-old Cyborg via heel hook.
So broadly speaking, Cyborg goes for the inside heel hook, which is strategically the best thing that you can do here, because it finishes faster and easier than the outside heel hook. But broadly speaking, like, Cyborg looked many steps ahead of Kainan on the leg lock game, you know? And we even saw it. You sent me a post from Gordon about, basically, like, Gordon was, like, mocking Kainan.
A little bit, which he kind of does from time to time. He mocks both those guys.
He does, but, like, I think it was more directed at Kainan.
Yeah, definitely.
Because
he, like, didn't address
he's like, why didn't you hand fight, you know, basically. And it's, like, one of the few times, like, I don't frequently find myself agreeing with Gordon in terms of, like, what he's talking about, how he's trash talking. But I will say that, like, in terms of Kainan looking several steps behind, I do agree with that.
Yeah.
And it seems like Cyborg, the veteran, understanding the leg lock meta, knew strategically what he needed to do.
Yeah. So how many times have we seen Kainan get got with heel hooks? The most notable ones I can think of
Lachlan.
are Keenan in ADCC 2017, Lachlan, and this. Are there any other major ones that I'm missing or forgetting?
I feel like there was a knee bar that he got caught by, right? Like, let me see.
I don't remember, but I'm kind of thinking longer term of, like, Kainan, we know he can compete. We know he can do heel hooks. We've seen him heel hook Nick Rodriguez at Fight to Win Philly, like 2 weeks after their matchup in the finals of ADCC. Like, we know he can do them. We know he's world class and world level. Like, but I'm curious to see if maybe that's something we'll see him, like, develop, because you've now seen a guy like Cyborg is not historically a leg locker. You know, he definitely can go for them. He definitely has leg lock finishes. He has knee bar wins. I'm just kind of curious to see if people will sort of go, I've got to go for Kainan's legs.
As a black belt?
Yep.
Lachlan and Cyborg are the only two.
He was still brown belt, wasn't he, when he did AC in 17? Yeah, I forgot about that.
There's no other...
Okay.
There's no other heel hook losses.
So my statement is completely reaching and pretty much unfounded because he's only been gotten twice with heel hooks.
Yeah.
Okay. Really good. You know, Cyborg is one of the best at the weight.
And also, Lachlan was just
Lachlan's one of the best at that move in the world. Like, the way that he does it. You don't heel hook 3 dudes at the biggest tournament ever in the open weight if you're not one of the best in the world at that move.
Do you know what...
You're in BJJ Heroes, aren't you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you know what Kainan's first submission loss was at black belt?
Who was it? Or no, what? Give me what?
Who is important?
What tournament?
It's not what. It's more like who.
Okay.
It was at It's called SPBJJ Pro.
Yeah. Okay. Yep. It would have been. I've seen the match. It wasn't.
I think we talked about this a few weeks ago.
It wasn't
But
Keenan.
still wild to me.
It was. Fuck. I'm looking at the match too. This is super annoying. Who was it?
Felipe Andrew.
Nah, that's what it was. Yeah.
So,
I remember because we triangled Keenan. I went through and I looked at a bunch of Felipe Andrew stuff and I was like, who? He fought Kynan? Like, let me see that match. And then, yeah.
So anyway, this is a little bit of derail, but outstanding work by Cyborg.
It's Labor Day weekend. You get derailed sometimes.
Cyborg just looked absolutely incredible here.
Don't bet against Cyborg. Like we had to break our rule here. And
well,
bet
I mean,
against
like
one of them.
Exactly. Like I picked Kainan, but
this goes back to the rule though. Like the rule now is don't bet against Cyborg and Nogi, and that's.
I mean, Cyborg just subbed like one of the best. Probably in my esteem, the best 99 kilogram.
I mean, obviously he's ADCC champion.
Yeah,
like that's by the numbers the best dude at the weight, and so isn't Cyborg a former 99 kilogram champion?
No, he was
former
absolute
open champion.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, I was for some reason in my head.
He doesn't have. I don't think he has a divisional.
Okay. And for some reason in my head, I always flip that. I know because he fought Galvao, but I always want to make him a division champion and an open champion. He's only got the only quotes only has the open championship.
So next up, we have our co-main event at 100 kilogram gi match. Felipe Pena.
I'm reading. Oh, sorry. Keep going.
Defeating Herbert Santos via verbal tap. It's been a while, man. It's been a long minute.
It hasn't been that long though. Spider Korea.
Not like this.
Not like this.
We had a full-blown Herbert reappearance.
So I love on the Reddit results of this, which is what I have up because it's the easiest thing to find. It's Felipe Pena submits Herbert Santos via who knows what the fuck happened, but Herbert tapped from under mount.
Right. This match, even
it's a good match. It's the shitty thing. Why I hate these matches so much is that it's a really good match until the moment that Herbert gets swept and mounted, and then he quits. Again. We saw the same thing in Mergali. We saw the same thing in the Langacker match. We saw the same thing in another match. It was like a World Pro match or it was like another IBJJF match. And they were messing with Herbert's ribs again, but it's like
now I think we know for sure it's not an injury. It's a mental barrier.
I don't get it though. He's so he looked good. He almost took Pena's back.
Dude, I'll go like a little bit play by play here. This match was, despite the ending, a fucking phenomenal match.
Yeah.
It's so weird because we did see world beater Herbert. Like you said, the way that you said it, you're like, yeah, he truly did look like a world beater. I was surprised at how successful he was against Felipe Pena, but Pena is patient and was able to, basically turn the match around. So starting off, Herbert just gets a savage, collar and knee single leg for 2 points. I mean, just off the bat, trucks Pena. No question.
Dude, I love Herbert because he comes out he's so aggressive.
Yeah.
He just will truck guys. It reminds me a lot of what Leandro can do sometimes. Leandro and Mergali and Herbert all have that really similar where it's they can come out and just truck at the beginning of a match and just well, goddamn, what's this gear?
Yeah.
And then I think Mergali is actually all of them slow down. That's one thing that notably all of them do throughout matches.
Mergali, I think, has the strongest tank for that pace.
He does, but I mean, I remember this specifically because I remember Keenan talking about fighting Mergali, who's also on this card.
Yeah.
Talking about you want Mergali, you got to slow him down, you got to let him kind of go, and then you've got to sort of try to contend with him once he's a little bit slower later in the match because you just can't maintain.
There are some matches where he just goes ham the whole way. But anyway, Pena reguards after getting taken down. Or he's in guard, and he attempts a really bad butterfly sweep and lands in turtle, and Herbert very nearly takes the back. Pena has to
a rolling
alligator roll through several times, and eventually
he's able to kind of slide Herbert off to the side, and Herbert's never really able to get any huge level of control, but it's very clearly a defendable back that if you make a mistake here, Santos will be on your back.
Yep. So Pena is able to regard, and Herbert is standing and goes for a leg drag.
Yep.
And somehow I like Pena moves so quickly. He turns a leg drag into a fucking bear trap calf slicer, into a damn near back take on Herberth. It was fucking nuts. Like, go and watch this sequence. Pena is
This is one of those.
savage.
I don't have great notes on it because I just didn't really understand. You can show it to me again.
Yeah,
but I just didn't
it's
really
like,
understand like how the position, like how he made that transition in that way. Like I saw it and I was like,
it happened
I
so
can't
quick.
recreate this in my head to get it done.
Yep. But it's worth going back and looking at because it is beautiful. And Pena then gets into that calf slicer position, very nearly takes the back, and gets a sweep. And Herberth starts playing spider guard. Pena goes for a leg weave into Toriando and passes in one beautiful sequence.
And the thing is,
and this is where you see...
And this is why the pass is weird, because I'm like, from this point, once Herberth gets turned over and is now defending from the guard, like, I'm wondering at what point does he
give up,
quit, and at what point, like, is the pass just that buttery smooth? And that's kind of why I'm annoyed, because, like, I can't really put a ton of stock in, like, the passing sequence, because I don't know, like, at what point did Herberth give up here?
It's
and
true.
It's like, the pass looks really good, but that pass is going to look like that with no resistance. If Herberth was still resisting it, that's crazy. But I just don't know. And so at this point in the match, we're into that weird Herbert Santos territory where you're like, weird stuff happens, and then a guy gets a weird sub on him.
I can't tell about the pass. I do know when Pena settles into side control, that's when I knew Herberth had given up, because Pena goes for a far side arm, scooping it up, and you can see Herberth's arm is just kind of like flopping.
It's like flaccid.
Yeah.
It's just like he has both hands high, and he's not like pulling his elbows down. He's not trying to turn.
He's not framing.
He just kind of like lays there and then quits.
Yep. And so Pena gets to mount, and Herberth gives up the underhooks, and then there's a verbal tap.
Yeah.
So that being said, again, this match started off fucking great.
I think that's the last 3 or 4 Herberth matches.
Yep.
Yo, that match started out great, and then it got fucking weird. Yo, can you pull up for giggles Herberth Santos' last like 4 matches?
Sure.
Just because I'm really curious to see like when's the last time that he has had. We've covered him for like what would be like a regular, like a normal match where that hasn't happened, because I can't remember the last time that he's looked like bad. Maybe the match that he like allegedly may or may not have peed on himself, like that match. But he even looked. I think he even looked good at the beginning of that match. What are his last 4?
His last 4 was something called. So there's Patrick Gaudio at BJJ Stars.
Okay.
That was on advantages. So
he won that.
He lost.
Okay.
Then there's a bunch of people I don't recognize from events called Duelo TT and Kurabita SO. I don't know what those are.
Huh. I got to go look that up. I don't know what that is either.
Yep. Then there's I think these are all Brazilian promotions.
They have to be.
Shit, that's wild. So the next big one, we have Marigali.
The spider match.
And then
the fight
right before that, he toe-holded Claudio Calasanz.
In the same spider event. Like, he looked good at that event, too.
Yep. He lost to Tim Spriggs at Fight to Win 130.
That was a decision, I think.
Yep.
Yeah.
And let's see.
Okay, so he has... Never mind. He has had regular matches. Just the matches we happen to have covered him on get weird.
Right.
But, all right, well, I hope Herberth goes to a sports psychologist. Happy to see Felipe Pena look good. I want to see more of Pena because I like watching Pena.
Pena's dope.
Anything else on the match?
Nah, next up, we got open weight Nicholas Marigali, speak of the devil, versus Leandro Lowe. This match ended in a draw.
Fun match, though.
Good match.
Definitely on the slower side. It was a lot of Marigali playing from the open guard.
Which was inverse of what I thought. I had a feeling that Leandro was going to want to play guard here, but Marigali playing spider guard, occasionally close guard.
A little bit of De La Riva in there as well.
Yeah,
Not a whole lot. Little lasso in there as well.
Yeah,
Not
this guy's both guys. Neither of them really turned the afterburner until overtime.
Yeah,
and then it's a lot of the same thing until the last minute, and that's when Leandro goes ham. This is when we're used to him doing it. He's
Leandro totally looks like Leandro here. I'm like, oh shit, there was one point where he is throwing, I forget what pass it was. It was like a double, it was kind of like a Toriano knee cut combination to the side, and he almost gets around. I was like, yo, he's about to pass Mergali's guard.
Mergali was regarding like a motherfucker, and then there was one moment that was kind of like a leg drag, and it forces Mergali to accept half guard. And that's when I was like, oh shit. And not only did Mergali give up half guard, he had to give up head control to Leandro too.
Yep.
And he got like kind of like flattened out a little bit, but he's able to regard and get full guard from there, close guard, and Mergali ends the match putting Leandro into a omoplata.
Yeah.
So
and then it looked kind of like, I don't know how Leandro's going to get out of this, and then it sort of matched.
But this is
like,
this is what drives me crazy about the long match format, because we would have seen way more of this shit if it was a shorter match. But what the guys are going to do is that, well,
especially guys that are kind of like burst fighters, like both these guys. Like Leandro, like we know notoriously nowadays, does not have the gas to do what he did at the end of the match, like for the entirety of the match. Like he just doesn't. He's just not able to do that.
A lot of guys don't do that. Like
most guys.
Bouchesh is the same way.
That.
Yeah.
Yeah, they have these bursts of fight.
Yep.
But you're not. They just can't maintain that level because like their training's not set up to allow them to maintain that level.
If that was a 6-minute match, it would have been hot fire the whole way. Yeah. I'm just saying.
Interesting match, just definitely on the slower side. It's a draw. There's two match on this card that end up in draw. This match and the next match. I don't entirely understand. Like, they go to overtime, and if it's a non-scoring overtime, there's no decision. It's just a draw, I think, is what I've figured out here, is what it seems like. Does that seem correct to you?
I'm completely at a loss as to what the criteria was. But,
next match.
I want to talk about Gregor Gracie and Izaki Bahens. God damn, dude, this match was fucking great. Izaki looked brilliant.
Yeah. We picked Izaki to take this match. Actually, I think we both took him by sub, I think.
I didn't.
Really?
Because, like, it's hard to pick with Izaki because there are times when he does this, and then there's times where he's
tentative,
or not just like he's just a very patient, technical fighter. It's like a lot of subtle grip fighting type stuff. Okay. I didn't know which one we were going to see. We saw a fucking, like...
We saw a head and arm triangle city as Izaki Bahens.
Oh, my God. Yeah.
There was, like, 2 arm triangles in this match that I was amazed that Gregor was able to get out of. There was one of them where Gregor just, like, he's Izaki Bahens is to the side, head and arm triangle in. Gregor Gracie's hand is up, answering the phone.
Telephone
and
defense.
He puts his... Gregor Gracie puts his leg on his other knee, and then, like, doesn't start to hand fight, just sort of sits and waits. And I went, oh, he's about to see if he's going to stop squeezing, and then, like, tap. And he gets out.
Yep.
And I went, holy shit, how on earth did he get out of that?
Yeah, it depends on how you're setting up the arm triangle. Like, there are times when it is exhausting to apply.
Yeah.
I mean, it's always more exhausting to defend, but...
Right.
But yeah, there was that. Izaki started off the match with a guillotine. Good defense from Gracie. He survives, obviously. He's in seated guard, and Izaki hits a snap-down headlock and then elects to do an arm-in guillotine. He had the opportunity to do the, like, high elbow, and he was just
I think the why he does that is because where his positioning is on the arm, like, he's just low, and he decides to, like, go to the arm-in.
It was dope. He jumps into... the finish.
Mm-hmm. And he gets that nice off angle you see with the arm in guillotine, and I was like, oh, this is going to be tight.
Yeah.
Because you can see when you have a really good arm in guillotine, like the chest, your chest is like folded over the body, and you can't see Gregor Gracie's neck here. And so you're like, oh, that's going to be deep.
Yeah.
Turns the angle, and I went, I don't know how he's going to get out of this. Because arm in guillotines are super finicky, and so you can see them, and you're like, that looks really tight. But because usually you can't see any of the hand positioning and handwork or hand fighting.
Yeah, you can't tell if they're tight or not.
We don't know, like, is the guy going to defend properly or get something in the way to get out of this choke? Or, like, because when you look at the body positioning, you're like, okay, that's a good body positioning. It's finishable from there, but I can't see the hand, so I can't make a comment on, is it going to be finished or not? Because I can't see the hands because the body's in the way. And so arm and guillotines are always great, like coin flip. You're like, oh, the position's there. Is he going to get it?
There was one angle where you could see Gregor's head, and I was like, oh, that's a choke.
Yeah.
Like,
always folded over.
Yeah, his head is twisting. It's just, phenomenal finish by Izaki.
Don't see a ton of arm and guillotines. It's nice to see, a pro match that ends in arm and guillotine. It's usually like a jumping like arm and guillotine like that, where you get the snap down and then just jump into it, make the angle while you're jumping, and then finish. Really, really great technique on display here.
Next up, we have Sanche Ribeiro versus Wagner Hosha. This match ended in a draw.
This match kind of went exactly how I thought it was going to go.
Yeah.
I honestly was surprised. It was a little more guard play from Sanji than I anticipated.
I thought Sanji was going to take it, but Sanji was all guard. I'm surprised it was all like butterfly and open guard. I thought he was going to play more closed. But Wagner just exuding incredible pressure like he always
Wagner
does.
made it a Wagner match. And it's like, cool, Wagner knows what Wagner is going to make you do.
Right.
And he's going to bop at your head. He's going to boom. He's going to snap you down. He's going to try to like arm drag you. He's going to do exactly what we've seen Wagner do the last
And he's going to have
2 years.
Incredible base, Wagner is just...
I was surprised that at 195, at 95 kilograms, I don't know how close to that weight Wagner actually got to. Like, Wagner got a lot bigger and did not look completely outsized in this match.
No, this looked like an even size match.
And that was very, very interesting to me because I did not anticipate Wagner looking this close to Sanji's size. In this match, and so
wearing the weight comfortably and fucking still doing
and he
great.
Looked good. He looked strong. He looked good. There was no point that it looked like Sanji was sort of like moving him around like a smaller fighter.
Right.
And that's sort of kind of what I had anticipated happening. I just figured that Sanji would have 10 kilograms plus on Wagner and really like leverage that advantage. And that I was completely wrong about that thought.
So in overtime, Wagner hits a snap down it's a little hard to tell exactly what happens. Like, to me, it seemed like Wagner might have like done a snap down and thrown Sanche off a little bit.
So the first watch, that's what I saw. I saw Wagner get like the initiative on the position. Watching it again, it sort of looks like Sanji goes to set up like an outside, like really high single leg.
And Wagner stuffs it.
Wagner sort of like, while Sanji is dropping for that, Wagner, like just as soon as the drop happens a little bit, Wagner goes to stuff.
See, that would make a lot more sense to me.
Well, that's why there was no points.
Yeah.
That's why in my head I was going, okay, so Wagner got that takedown, and then on the rewatch I went, oh, actually Sanji initiates that. Wagner counters, so Wagner's not going to get the points on the takedown because it was a counter.
Right.
Per the rule. So okay, that makes more sense now.
Sanji hits the ground in turtle, and Wagner just leaps on the back, and looks like he definitely gets one hook in.
Yeah.
Can't see the far hook. It looks like it's out because they don't award points.
It wasn't.
And then
he didn't get it in.
Time expires. So, but still, that was a really kind of like dominant position for Wagner, but not enough
honestly,
to
the speed
the
that
match.
He counters that too, I was really impressed about, because to have the proprioception to like on that little bit of drop capitalize that greatly on a position like that on a guy like Sanji was like super impressive. Again, I'm after seeing this match, totally happy to see Wagner at the higher weight classes. Like he looks like he can contend, and I'm a huge fan of that. Both guys look good. I'm happy that both guys look good.
Marco Barbosa defeats Wander Braga via points. Marcos Pecho Martins defeats Servio Tulia via choke from the back.
Dude, this was like fight of the night. This match was all over the place, a ton of fun, and then Marcos locks in like a deep collar and just rips it and finishes. Zach and I were yelling at the broadcast as it was happening, like, oh, he's gonna get him, he gets him. And I always love moments like that when you're watching a broadcast live and you get to be the guy that's yelling at the TV like, oh, he's gonna get him, and then he gets him.
Leandro Lara defeats Italo Mura via points. Gabriele Presenia defeats Yara Soares via points.
This is another really fun and high-scoring match. Both ladies looked really good. I think we've covered Gabriele a bit here, and this match we will definitely continue to do so.
Yeah, that was a 12-10 match. It's a
nice high-scoring match, lots of back and forth, lots of like really good, like even very even points, but you saw both people like playing to the points, but working and actually being able to get the points too. So it was a fun paced match.
Diego Oliveira defeats Alex Sodre via points.
Another really fun high scoring match.
Gutenberg Pereira defeats Ryder Zucchi via katakatame.
Yeah, head and arm choked. Looking good. We haven't seen Gutenberg in a bit here. Former light heavyweight champion for Fight to Win, and a bunch of other accolades. GF team. I like watching Gutenberg. Usually a slower fighter, but really cool to see him get a win here.
Mayram Makin defeats Fabricio Andre via points.
8-2. And then we had Michael Galvao defeating Felipe Potro via bow and arrow choke. Dude, Potro looked good here. I mean, Micah Galvao was definitely the favorite of this match. Michael Galvao's been fighting black belts for 2+ years now, usually in pro fights. And so it's cool to see him take on Felipe and it be like, a very nice back and forth match that Galvao was able to take via bow and arrow choke. It was fun. Honestly, super fun card. I hope they deal with a little bit of the the streaming issues that people saw, and I hope they kind of streamline some of the payment stuff, because I was kind of concerned that the payment went through for me and then I didn't immediately get access to the card.
I mean, I hope what ends up happening is they get on their feet as a betting site and then they stop doing promotions, because
I would love break the two businesses apart, have a different set of operations, different set of I would love to see it. If we get cool cards like this,
for the moment, I'm just saying
yeah.
It's not something. I don't want this to turn into a promotion. I hope that they're just using this as a method of
to launch the betting site.
Yeah, it's like a marketing thing.
Cool.
Which honestly, it makes sense, because you and I have said it before. When we see a card that's this stacked from a brand new promotion.
Always worried about guys getting paid.
Yeah, always worried about guys getting paid. But if it's a marketing thing, then it's totally cool. And the company's clearly using it to just get their betting site.
Like Black Belt CBD.
Yep,
Black Belt CBD
Brilliant.
did that, and it was awesome.
Yep.
And I think that's the only event we ever saw from them, but it was a dope, fun event. So
get your name out.
Exactly. So. That's all I got for that. It was fun. Try to find it. It was a good card. What do you want to do? Want to do Third Coast Grappling, Kumite 6, or you want to do Fight to Win 151? What do you want to preview first?
Let's do Third Coast.
So Third Coast Grappling, Kumite 6 happening on September 12th. Main evented by Johnny Tama versus Oswaldo Cushino Morzinho. That's the main event super fight that'll happen between the last round of the 8-man absolute bracket. How do you see that going? I think these guys fought a little bit ago.
Cushino is, we saw him versus what?
Gary Tony.
Gary, yep.
Yeah.
I still don't have a feel for his game, so it's hard for me to call this.
Yeah, we know Tom. We've seen both these guys.
Tama
quarantine. I kind of want to lean Tama here. Both guys are really, really active, but Cushino is notoriously difficult to put away. That's kind of why it was impressive. Actually, both these guys are notoriously difficult to put away. That's kind of why I definitely see this going to overtime. I see this being probably a close takedown in overtime. I think I'd probably give this to Tama in the rule set, just because I think that the pace that Tama keeps late in the match into the overtime will probably be more of a factor. Both these guys have the tools to get it done. I just think we've seen more of Tama in the Third Coast rule set. He's going to be more familiar. This will be the first event with the bigger mat space now. So the boundary lines won't play as much of a factor, which I think honestly favors Cushino in a smaller mat space. I think Cushino uses the boundary areas very, very well. But Tama's no-gi world champion for IBJJF this last year. Should be a fun matchup. Anything else?
No, let's go into the tournament. We have
hell yeah.
8-man absolute Kumite, Victor Hugo, Roberto Jimenez, Guillermo Augusto, Arnaldo Maidana, Felipe Andrew, Ariane de Mello, Gabriel Almeida, and Felipe Trovo.
So on the right side of the bracket, first matchup, we got Hugo versus Maidana.
That's going to be dope. And by the way, before we get into kind of these matchups, I love that we're seeing the same exciting fighters in each kind of tournament, because it gives us more information. One thing that is a little bit frustrating about grappling is historically you'd have these great fighters and they might meet up once, maybe twice a year if you're lucky. We're starting to see more and more with all of these events, people getting thrown in together. And what I like about Third Coast is we're seeing these guys being thrown into these tournaments, which is great. Also, they're really exciting, which helps a lot too, because
well, like we've seen Hugo on third, we've seen Andrew on third coast, we've seen Jimenez up, but we've seen all these grapplers a couple of times on third coast now, and so you get a feel and a flavor for how their games like play with this particular rule set. It's a shorter match. It's like
we get to
exciting.
learn their skill, their kind of like skill set a little bit more and what they like to do.
For me, it makes it easier to cover.
Yep.
Which is so it's cool to see the same top level guys in the same formats on the pro stage. Like
if you think about pro sports, it's the same as seeing the same teams in football match up with their division rivals and stuff like that multiple times a year. Gives you more information. And it also kind of builds a little bit of like rivalry and stuff.
And a narrative. Again, I like the narrative stuff. The more we do this, I am more of a fan. It's kind of like rankings. There's more of a narrative behind like why these matches are compelling. I like that we're seeing this in Third Coast. So
first up, we got Victor Hugo versus Maidana. I'm going to go with Hugo here.
Yeah, he looked really good in the last Third Coast. I just think like the style that he does. He's also probably one of the bigger guys in this bracket anyway. I think the size in this open weight matchup is going to play a factor. Again, I probably see it going to overtime, but Hugo's also a guy that has a really great flash sub game. So it wouldn't surprise me to see a flash sub here, but Maidana is a tough dude. Probably won't see a tech fall, but Hugo can keep a big pace for a big guy, so that wouldn't surprise me too much. I just don't think it's going to be hard to score that many points.
Yeah. We have on the same side Felipe Andro versus DeMello.
Not as familiar with DeMello's game. I am not going to bet against Andrew in this style of game.
Andrew has proven he can sub anybody.
But dude, the speed, like it goes back to those two. Who did he ankle lock in the semifinals of the last Third Coast? I'm forgetting who he ankle locked, but the match we remember really well is the Hulk match.
The Hulk match,
where he just like has this beautiful like not wrong side triangle. The setup is from the opposite side, and the speed he hit that on Hulk was just like, all right, I cannot bet against you in this format with like the flash subs that he's been hitting on Third Coast recently.
Yep. On the other side of the bracket, we have Felipe Trovo versus Gabriel Almeida.
We just saw Trovo on Subversive 3. He was part of the Gracie Bada team that looked really good, that actually ended up winning the entire Subversive event. It's cool to see him basically taking that and like getting on a slot in this card.
I'm excited to see that too. I see Trovo taking that. And then on that side of the bracket, we have Augusto versus Roberto Jimenez. Guillermo Augusto versus Roberto Jimenez. Jimenez is who I see taking it.
Again, Jimenez is another guy that you usually don't want to bet against in a Third Coast, just because, again, how many Third Coasts has he been on?
Honestly, at this point,
I think he's been on, I'm not going to say most of them, but a fourth of them, probably at least. He's on almost, he's got a super fight on the card, or he's in the brackets nowadays, and he's learned the rule set really well. We saw him like deal with Rodriguez this last one. Good match with Cyborg, which is, one of the hardest dudes in the world to fight.
Jimenez is racking up experience with top level guys.
And he's ranked. I mean, your first match at black belt, you beat Keenan.
I'm just thinking, dude, just look at his activity during quarantine alone.
Yeah.
Look at his 2020
wins during quarantine. Look at his matches. Like, again, Jimenez is a dude.
There's very few high level black belts that have been that active. Victor Hugo's kind of approaching that.
Yeah, he's starting to get more active now. Cyborg's been pretty active. Wagner's been pretty active. A lot of the guys in the fight sport camp have been pretty active. Some of the guys in the Texas scene, but mainly because Texas was open for the majority of this, been between Fight to Wins and between Third Coast.
Trovo versus Jimenez.
I kind of want to lean Jimenez. Again, this is partially because I'm less familiar with Felipe Trovo's game. I saw him look good on Subversive. Again, that was in the gi. I don't think this is in the gi.
Yeah.
I could be wrong, but I do not believe this is. Oh, I should know this actually.
What about the other side then? We have
Hugo versus Andrew. Felipe Andrew, Victor Hugo. I'm kind of torn. But during the preview when I was setting up and figuring out what we were covering this week and looking and trying to see how the guys match up. I don't know. I think Hugo's going to be the bigger grappler here. But both are guys I know for really good flash subs. Like that's the weird thing is like they're both big flash sub guys. Hugo's definitely gonna be the bigger man, but that has not been a problem for Andrew.
Felipe Andrew has a brutal straight ankle lock.
In heel hook game. And we know Hugo really likes to play guard. Mm-hmm. That could be a liability. But it's also points. And so if you get a big guy like Hugo that locks you down and, can score.
It's points, but the points only matter.
Yeah, but in overtime, it's first to score. And so you get a big guy like
I'm saying
Hugo
like during regulation.
Yeah, first to 12.
First, it's unless someone's tech falling you, which, you can start off throwing some like reckless leg attacks and then hunker down and prevent points from being scored on you if you need to.
But we also know Hugo has some really great knee bar wins as well. So it's like Hugo's I don't think a stranger to the leg lock game. And that's sort of why I'm very torn, especially in this rule set.
It's more like how quickly,
that's my big kind of X factor. Hugo's definitely the bigger guy here. I think he has the ability to more easily score a 2-point sweep in overtime or get a takedown in overtime. But Felipe Andrew, being a little bit of the smaller guy, but still pretty big, he has an extra speed that I think that he can get to a limb or get to something quickly. I just don't know if we're going to see. But Hugo's also one of the faster big guys, and that's why it's this weird. Like dynamism of matchup where I'm like I can see it going either. I see pathways to victory for both guy.
I think if we see Hugo playing excessive guard here, we can at least expect an attempt from Felipe Andrew, if not a successful submission.
Yeah.
So that's one thing that
I want to pick Hugo, but for some reason I think Felipe takes it. So I'm gonna go with Andrew. But like with a very kind of slim margin of confidence on this one.
Yeah, no, I this could go either way. Hugo, I think, is probably the more complete grappler. But again, if he plays guard the way that we've seen him against Felipe Andrew, that's going to make Felipe's job getting to the ankle a lot easier.
Yeah.
So
and he'll make the distance very well. Yeah, it's a fun match. I'm very curious. If we do see this matchup, I'm very curious to see how it plays out. So what do you think, Trovo versus Jimenez?
I have no idea. I'm going with Jimenez just because he's like,
We see him all the time where he's very, very familiar with the rule set. So finals, who you got? What's the final matchup?
Assuming Felipe makes it.
Felipe Andrew versus Roberto Jimenez. I'm kind of worried about the leg lock of Felipe Andrew here, and because we've seen Jimenez get got a couple times in flash leg lock subs, mostly by Pedro Mourinho, but I kind of want to lean Felipe Andrew here in the finals.
Yeah,
I just feel like stylistically, the closed guard game of Jimenez, like Andrew will have a really good.
The other thing is like
experience level to having dealt with that at the high levels for years.
Andrew's gonna understand. I mean, I'm sure all of the athletes understand and are going for submission, but like Andrew's gonna Felipe Andrew's really, and I mean this holds true for Hugo and Jimenez, but like the veterans of this are really gonna understand how advantageous it is to get a quick sub. Like it truly helps you.
We know. Actually, it's funny. We know Hugo, Andrew, and Jimenez as all guys that notoriously in bracketed events, first round, second round, will have quick subs.
Yep.
So, yeah, I kind of want to lean Andrew here, just because I feel like he's going to go hard on leg locks, and I feel like
I hope he does.
And I feel like I want to see. I'm curious to see how Jimenez deals with that, because we've seen Jimenez's leg lock defense like very rapidly get better, and I'm curious to see if we see like dynamic leg lock entries from Andrew. How Jimenez deals with that. Is he able to pass off of them? Is he able to sweep? Like, what is he able to do with that? And is he able to get top position offense here? And so I do. Man. I think gonna go Andrew here, but it honestly there should be some really really exciting matchups in the bracket.
I'm excited no matter what.
There's a host of super fights on the card as well. Again, always a fun event with Third Coast. First event with the bigger mats. I'm happy that they have really considered that. He sold off all the old mats and got mats that are 33% bigger area wise. So hopefully we have less out of bounds issues. Super excited for it. September 12th. Now moving on to our preview of Fight to Win 151 happening on September 11th. This one is headlined by main event black belt lightweight gi title. I'm messing up everything. Kennedy Maciel Cobrinha Jr. versus Oswaldo Casino Magino. Back-to-back days, dude, as the main event.
Tama and crazy. Kennedy Maciel. Yeah, I'm excited to see Kennedy.
It's been a little bit.
I think it's there. He might have.
He did Euros, didn't he?
Yeah, I was about to say, I think he did one of the majors.
Which would have been, did he do Euros?
Actually, we might not have had a major.
We did. We had ADCC when we had Euros was in January.
Oh, yep. Yeah.
And then, dude, literally 8 months ago, and that was the last major we had. Isn't that crazy?
It's so nuts.
It's just so weird. Like, oh yeah, we missed every other major this year. Like, crazy. We saw Kennedy on something else. It's going to tell me what it was.
Anyway, I'm excited for this. I don't have a pick.
I'm offhand, honestly, I need to go back and watch more tape on Kennedy, just because I haven't seen his game in
Kennedy.
In about a year.
He's aggressive and he gets caught in submissions.
Well, that was the Tyrotolo match, and he got out of all.
Well, and then he got his arm broke.
Yeah, but that was in the gi. That's actually is going to be a gi match as well.
Yep. So anyway.
It's honestly that's actually a really good match. It's a very even match. Either outcome would surprise me here.
Yeah, I'm gonna call it a push.
I'm probably going decision, maybe split decision. I can see it being an extremely close match. I think Oswaldo, having been on the Fight to Win Who's Number One stage has more experience, but with Cobrinha in your corner, it sort of levels the playing field very, very well.
Co-main event, black belt, light heavyweight, Masters gi title match, Rafael Lovato Jr. versus Aaron Tex Johnson.
We just saw Tex in the gi at Subversive 3, so we know Tex is back into the gi. Lovato has been in the gi. I think
Lovato's going to wreck him.
But Tex has those footlocks.
Yeah.
He's gotten, I mean, we've seen Tex versus guys like Matt Layton, like grab the leg and grip and rip. I think Lovato takes this positionally. I think most likely from mount via either like an armbar or like a choke from a mount. I don't think he wants to be on the bottom much versus Tex, because Tex just can jump into the legs and historically has done that. When guys pull on him, he just jumps into that straight ankle lock and just rips on you. I think we saw it last week at Subversive. I still think Lovato gets this, but I think Lovato I'm very curious to see specifically how Lovato deals with Tex, because Tex has historically been extremely dangerous on the legs. So I think Lovato takes it most likely via sub from the top, but I think he really scrambles to get off a bottom position if Tex is able to put him there.
185-pound black belt gi match. Gabriel Arges versus Marcio Andre.
I'm curious to see Marcio at that high of a weight class. I thought historically he was 1 or 2 weight classes below that. Good match. Big fan of Arges. Big fan of Marcio. I kind of want to lean Arges here, just as the younger fighter. Like, he's looked really good recently, but Marcio's been active more recently, and we've covered him more recently, although he's going up in weight. I don't think either of these guys walk around at 185, so I'm curious to see how this plays out.
135-pound black belt gi match, Lucas Pinheiro versus Vinny Sainz.
We just saw Lucas a couple weeks ago versus Juni Ocasio for the adult bantamweight no-gi title. So it'd be cool to see Lucas in the gi, because I don't think we've covered Lucas in the gi in probably a year, if not a little longer. I'm a big fan of Pinheiro's game. I think he's a really active, really fun fighter to watch. This probably puts him on the short list for the title contention in the gi. If he gets there, I think Vinny Sainz would also be on that short list as well. These are usually guys that we see at the top of the main card, in that number 3 and number 4 slot, not infrequently. So they're here again, both 2 top-level black belts. Would not honestly be surprised to see these guys on Who's Number 1 as well, like get a matchup, each of them get a different matchup. Would not surprise me. We have a bunch of other matches throughout the card. We have a Masters brown belt light heavyweight gi title, no gi title, Emil Fisher versus Kevin McCormick. And we also have a light heavyweight brown belt title, Brad Schneider versus Felipe Timento. Should be a ton of fun. Again, 2 stacked events back to back, Friday and Saturday. I don't think I have anything else. Maybe you got anything else?
No.
All right. So what's your week look like?
Pretty easy, man.
Nice.
Pretty chill.
That's
what
good.
about you?
My week's pretty easy this week. Hunting season starts this week.
Oh God, man.
Again, like last year, you had to deal with me like talking about how unsuccessful of a hunter I am.
Please,
this year,
at least use a gun.
I'm using a crossbow again.
Okay, crossbow, fine.
Which is an arrow gun, which is what I used last year unsuccessfully for this season. But I am now a legal licensed hunter in the state of Maryland. I went and passed my like you're not an idiot test for the state of Maryland in Frederick, which is an hour drive at 6 a.m. That was fun. The class started at 7:30, so I wanted to get there early, so I left at 6 and got there like at 7:15, and it was like a 4-hour class of like, don't shoot yourself in the face. Here's how to use a firearm. Here's how to do all this stuff. Answer 50-question test. You can't get a lot of them wrong. We won't pass you. So I passed that. I also got a boating license this week.
Just for fun.
I want to drive a jet ski in Maryland legally, and so like unrelated to hunting, but hunting season starts the 11th for bow season in Maryland, and so I'm looking to do that. Hopefully successfully this year, but we will see. I've been taking a ton of shots this week, and that's probably what I'll do most of the week in my free time is like just take shots with the crossbow, just to make sure that I can take an ethical, really good shot when I'm out there. I'm looking up a bunch of like processing videos for animals, and it's doing it for real this year. Now that I have not the apprentice license in Maryland, I have the real like legit hunter license. So that's going to be my entire week. Just honestly watching some tape on some of the guys we talked about because I had the urge to do that this week. And then like hunting.
Fuck yeah.
Yep. Anything else you got going on?
No, man.
How's yoga going? How's your back?
My back's doing all right, man. I can't complain.
That's good.
Yeah, no,
That's awesome.
It's been good. I've basically just modified. I've been doing yoga for BJJ.
You got back onto it?
Yeah, I mean, I've been doing it basically all quarantine. I was taking little breaks to give my back kind of like some recoup, and I just modified it a little bit to make it a little bit gentler. But for the most part, it's been awesome. And like gradually, now I've been doing it long enough that I can actually see a little bit of change in my flexibility, which is nice.
That's awesome because you were stiff. You've historically been like stiff as a board.
I'm probably the stiffest. I can't think of anyone who has less flexibility than me.
Anyone that's like not injured, like a regular, like relatively healthy person, you've been a pretty stiff dude for a lot of years. So it's cool that hopefully that improves your quality of life and your ability to do jiu-jitsu when this all when this all gets vaccinated, which is the hope, dude. Phase 2 trials look good. It's like 3 or 4 companies that are all like, our phase 2 trials look good. And phase 2, if you don't know, is basically the safety trials for a lot of stuff.
Right.
And phase 3, you go through like the long-term protection and human. There's a bunch of other stuff, and it's very interesting if you're into it.
They are seeing robust immune responses for many vaccines. I think there's like something like a dozen of them out there.
There's a lot of candidates, but there's 4 of them that are U.S. based.
The
that look really good.
The UK is supposed to be done with phase 3 in October. In a month, which is fucking crazy.
I'm ready, Emil. Give me the vaccine.
I am too, man.
I'm so ready, dog.
I'm so fucking ready.
I used to work, if anyone doesn't know, I used to work in vaccine research and vaccine development and antibiotics development. So I'm a big fan of that industry and think that they do really great work.
Yeah, it's sweet that we don't have to worry about polio.
Right? Or smallpox, or like pick and choose your pathogen that we've eradicated through the use of vaccination. So yeah, I'm on that short list. As soon as we go into phase 3 and like we're good to go, like I want to get back to rolling safely. So I'll carry that in my pocket, like my vaccination card in my pocket.
Yeah,
like, hey,
exactly.
I'm good. And we're like, awesome protection for 16 months. You're like, cool. 16 months, I'll be back. So that's my pie in the sky scenario. I hope we're getting there. I hope everyone's been safe. It's been a great weekend of jiu-jitsu. Looking forward to talking about this next week.
Yeah.
You got anything else, Emil?
That's it.
All right. As always in the show, I'm your host, Maine, with my co-host,
Emil.
And we are the Grappling Rerun, and we will see you on the mats hopefully soon. Stay safe. If you like the show, please consider sharing it on Facebook with the folks at your gym. It's the best way that we grow the show, and we really appreciate it. You can reach out to us on email.
We also have Instagram. We have Facebook. We have Twitter. We have Google Plus.
Until that shuts down.
We have a website.
If you have an event you would like to have us cover, please let us know. If you have a name, like most people do, and you'd like to have us stop butchering it,
let us know.
Reach out to us. The show is also available on YouTube, Spotify, in addition to iTunes and every other podcast service. We very much appreciate your time, and thank you.